Hello and welcome to the next episode of Lelouch or Light. Today we will be taking a look at their normal lives, their friends, their family, potential girlfriends or pawns, and how they maintain those relationships. So since we started off with Light last time, today we'll start off with Lelouch. Now Lelouch is a very special case because he has a very large family and some twisted relationships with members of his large family, to the point of where I kept on thinking about Shakespeare and a whole ton of Greek tragedies like Oedipus and Antigone. So it's pretty complicated. So let's begin. Firstly, his immediate family. So the most important member of his immediate family is not only V Britannia, or not only Lamperouge, his little blind sister. She's also the one that causes motivation to try and take over Britannia so that there will be a more peaceful world. Now, I know a lot of people think she's very annoying for some reason, but my personal stance is she's perfectly fine. I'm kind of indifferent towards her. She's a good character, but not my favorite. Next up we have Marianne V Britannia, Lelouch and Nonoli's mother. Now, I don't know a whole lot about her, especially because she sacrificed herself in the beginning of the series to save Nonoli and Lelouch, but I do know that she comes back in the climax because of some reason that will probably be left unexplained because I was pretty much lost in the climax and it would probably take too long to explain anyway. So I'm pretty nonchalant towards her. I don't love her and I don't hate her, mainly because of lack of screen time. Finally, we have Lelouch's father, Charles Z Britannia, and probably one of my least favorite characters in the entire show. Seriously, it's like this guy doesn't have a heart. He was willing to give up Lelouch and Nonoli just for the sake so that other people can gain the throne, and then he had no more use for them. And he's just a total jerk, especially because of what he did to Japan. Final verdict, I hate him. Next we have Lelouch's other family. There's his half-sister Euphemia, whose story did not end very well. But the only reason she committed those crimes was because she was forced to. So she was kind of innocent. Then there's Euphemia's sister, Cornelia, who is probably one of my favorite female characters in the show. Then there's Schneisel, Lelouch's half-brother and Cornelia and Euphemia's brother, who's the only person who can beat Lelouch at chess. And Prince Clovis, who was killed by Lelouch in the beginning of the series. Then we have Rollo, Lelouch's fake brother, so to speak. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't remember much about him, but I do know that he kills one of my favorite characters. And I do not like him because of that. Yes, I know that he sacrificed himself to save Lelouch at some point in the second season, but I still did not like him. Next, we have his potential girlfriends. First up, there's Colin, a half-Japanese and half-Britannian girl, and one of Zero's most loyal followers in the Black Knights. I thought she was a pretty good character. She was determined, she was tough, and I guess you could consider her a tsundere per se, but I honestly never saw her that way. So, she's a good character. Next we have C2, or Cece if you go by the Japanese version. She's kind of a Rei Ayanami type in the sense that she's kind of emotionless, but I still thought she was a very interesting character. She's also the one who granted Lelouch Gios in the first place and came back a few episodes later after she got shot in the forehead. If that doesn't spell out mystery to anyone else, then I don't know what will. Finally, we have my favorite contender for Lelouch's heart, Shirley. I like Shirley a lot because she kind of embodies the normal girl archetype, but at the same time she's very developed. And I also like how she's smart enough to figure out that Lelouch is Zero twice. The second time because her memory was wiped beforehand. I also liked how her emotions seemed really genuine. And then we get to my least favorite aspect about her, the fact that Rollo killed her off in the second season! And it was out of pure jealousy! Oh my god! How selfish can one be? And the worst part is, you can see that Lelouch cared about her too! So, as you can already tell from this point, this show has a major fetish for killing off main characters. But they had to kill off some of my favorites! Moving on to friends. First up we have Suzaku, of whom I will be talking a lot more about in the next video, but I will say right now that he is a very well done character, even if there are some moments where I want to punch him in the face. Then there's Nina, of whom so many people have already complained about that I don't really have to say anything. And finally there's Millie Ashford and Revals, of whom are the two most forgettable characters in the entire show, so I don't have much to say about them. So, there are a lot of characters in Code Geass. And all the ones I mentioned are just touching the surface. There are seriously, like, a whole ton of characters that I have not even touched base on. But the ones listed are the most important in terms of the video today. So, how well does Lelouch maintain these relationships with these people? He actually maintains them pretty well. At least with his friends and some of his family. He's only really close with his sister, and he keeps his friends close. But other than that, the entire Britannian family, with the exception of maybe Euphemia, may as well be dead to him. Or at the very least an obstacle in his plan to take over Britannia. But when it comes to just having a normal life and forgetting everything that has to do with Zero, Lelouch can actually maintain them pretty well. And also the fact that it seems because of this, Zero does not take over his entire character, which actually makes him a better character to relate to. So next up we have Light. He is very different from Lelouch in this aspect, in the sense that Light is basically consumed by Kira. So, you'll see why. First up we have his family. His father, who is the leader of the Kira investigation force, his mother, who has little to no presence in the story, and his sister, who has even less of a presence in the story. So, the only notable person in his family would be his father. And he fell victim to Kira. In the second half of the series, Light's father makes a contract with the Shinigami so he can see the name and day of death of everyone, which leads to his own death. And you know why he died? Because Light wanted to make sure that Kira would remain secretive. Yeah, Kira does not care about his family at all. Next up we have his potential pawns, or girlfriends. First up there's Misa Amane, who's kind of like that obsessive stalker that you never wish started following you. She's incredibly annoying and practically obsesses over Light, even though Light pretty much told her that he would only be using her for his plans. You know, it's one thing when you're being used against your will, and it's another thing when you're being used and you're completely aware of it. Yeah, she's annoying. And then there's Kiyomi. Oy vey. In the first half of the series, she was kind of like Light's quasi-girlfriend. And in the second half, she basically becomes his slave. Only for Kira to kill her off. Why does Light have so many fangirls again? Next we have Kira's associates. Next we have Taro Mikami, otherwise known as that guy who's really obsessed with Kira to the point of where he goes insane. Now, I don't mind him. He's a little bit over the top, but I don't mind him. And then there's Ryuk, the Shinigami. Now, he kind of appears really scary at first, but once you give him an apple, he's probably one of the best comic relief characters in all of anime. Next we have the Kira Investigation Force, or the Anti-Kira Team, if you will. First up there's L, who is by far my favorite character in the entire anime and whom I will be going into a lot more detail in the next video. And then there's his successors, Mello and Nier. These are like the two most hated characters in the entire anime. And to be perfectly honest, while I can see why with Mello, I don't get why people think Nier is annoying. I guess you could use the argument of he's just an L copycat and he really isn't all that original in the sense of Death Note characters, but I honestly thought he wasn't that bad. Mello, on the other hand, can get really annoying at times. And finally, last but not least, Matsuda, who is probably the most popular character of Death Note besides L and Light. And to be perfectly honest, I can see why. I really like his optimism, and I think that his development throughout the series is pretty fantastic, especially for a side character. So, final verdict, I really like Matsuda. So, how does Light maintain these relationships? Pretty horribly! He pretty much treats everyone that he comes in contact with as either a pawn or an obstacle. There is no middle ground. And is exactly what I mean by the fact that when I say Kira consumed Light. There is almost no normal Light to go around. Although there was a point in the anime where he lost his memories due to giving up the Death Note, and you saw a lot more normal and relatable Light result out of it. He was kind of a cliched anime protagonist, admittedly, but it was a huge contrast from the Light who picked up the Death Note and became Kira. So, for the most part, he doesn't maintain the relationships very well, but at the same time you can see that he would have. Or at the very least, had the ability to. He just decided not to utilize it. So the winner of this round has to be Lelouch. He was just able to maintain the relationships with his family a lot better than Light did, even if Lelouch's were pretty much hit or miss, if you know what I mean. Well, that's it from me. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Lelouch or Light. And join me next time for when we compare their rivals, Suzaku and L. See you guys then!